It's Wednesday, October 18th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today we end up with a two down bar that took out the low of the previous day. It stayed below the midpoint the previous day, and after moving lower near the open, it went down and reached its target down here, which on the daily chart was the low of Friday. And what it does now, with 2 days to go in the week, you can see the potential failure to up week forming. We're now red on the week. We're below the open. We've kind of took out the high. We've come to the halfway point of that bar and passed it. And now that projects to the outside bar to the downside with 2 days to go. So we're going to keep the buys to the downside. It doesn't mean out of the gates tomorrow we immediately head lower. Given that we kind of hit our target here of liquidity, but as long as we hold the halfway point, below the halfway point of this bar tomorrow, even if we start up a little bit, look for something to continue lower, because we do have a target here to take out this weekly low, and you can kind of see a little fair value gap in here. So again, if it happens right out of the gates, great. If it doesn't, be ready to, until the chart really now moves above the halfway point of this bar and above the open, which is this purple line. Got to stay biased to the downside. We'll just see how it forms tomorrow. But in terms of today, again, we kind of opened at the bottom of the pre-market range, just like yesterday. The difference on yesterday is we started lower and then came up strong on bar 3. And even on that bar, you weren't really ready to, even though it looked like, it might be a big reversal down here, you were still below the midpoint of the prior day. Once we got to the midpoint of the prior day, I felt comfortable to get long, and there was your morning trade. On this day, you can see here all these attempts to go higher stayed way below the midpoint of the prior day. So given that this first bar kind of went down, and then the second bar, I discussed how this paused here on number 2. On 3, it started up actually to start that bar. Then it kind of came down quickly and closed neutral. Then we went up again, and this is where I decided to buy some puts on the day. I saw it take out, at that point we had a double high here, so we never really took out the first bar high on bar number 3 to fail as we, once we came up here, we never really took that out and failed. And that's one of the reasons maybe why, given the way price takes out liquidity sometimes before heading in its direction, it didn't really follow through. But then this bar here took out these double highs and the high of this little pre-market area and had a big reversal. So there was your sell, and I shot a video on that. Obviously, it moved down one push. If you want to call this pause, second push, there's your morning trade. Then you came up here, again, with all bias to the downside. The question is, were you going to take another short trade? And when you come up and take out this liquidity and get a reversal bar here, it's definitely an opportunity if you want to take it with a pretty tight, small stop. If it comes back up here, you're out. But in this case, it went up, it had a little pause, and then we moved much lower on a secondary push, that took out the eventually the intraday low. This first move didn't do it, but it then kind of came down there and closed near the low of the day. So it definitely was a good trading day to the downside. You can just see here from the open, there was no, it never got to the halfway point of that prior day, and all this choppiness at the beginning, you were kind of then biased to look for the sell. We're also biased to look for the sell because we've been talking for a long time here how we're coming up into this fair value gap. That could be a big resistance area to the, to reverse, the little move that started up here, and now it looks like we're getting that. And on the monthly chart, again, we have a 2 down month in force, and we kind of moved up a little bit. We never got above the halfway point of this big red bar. So this little move here was just kind of the move. That's why we're always anticipating something going lower. And there were a bunch of, on these last few days, if you look at the videos, there were a few opportunities to try to go short. Even yesterday when I bought some puts in here, when I sensed that we were just taking out stops, because I had these double highs up here that I really thought would be swept to the upside after this green bar. Once that hit and then had a big displacement to the downside, that to me was the, likelihood that this little move here might be the, a very important high and a reversal type of thing. So we got that a little bit. It didn't really follow through towards the end of the day. It just kind of held there, but then we did open up lower today. Little, I shot the videos why I look to buy puts on bar number 4 here. So good, trading to the downside all day. And if you were going to stick with it, you did have this target here, and that's kind of the area from here to here was, definitely something to hold on if you were, depending how you wanted to treat it from a risk management standpoint and a target standpoint. So we end up, lower today, anticipating now with 2 days to go in the week, that outside week to the downside. Doesn't have to happen, but we'll look for signs of that, either starting out of the gates lower, on the daily chart, or maybe it'll have to take out some liquidity on the upside as long as we stay below the midpoint of this bar. Look for something down, and we'll see if we kind of hit that outside week target on the downside now that we've failed on the upside, come through the halfway point of the week. And our next target, you can see that not only is the outside target down here, but it also coincides with daily. I can see here a little daily liquidity, fair value gap, to kind of inefficient pricing in here. So that's why our target's right down in this area for sure. And I think somewhere in the next 2 days, that's what you're expecting unless it gaps up and goes above the midpoint and goes above the open here and turns the weekly chart back to green. So we will see if we get the continuation in the next couple of days to the downside.